Good afternoon, lovely Find Your Fire community people. Excuse me while I sort my phone out. I completely forgot the time. Well, I didn't forget the time. I went to go live in my... hold on, this is not working at all. Bear with me. I went to go live in the Facebook group and then got distracted by Facebook. Actually got distracted by a post from Dom Jolly. I don't know if you know him. He's an old British comedian. A British comedian who was very famous several years ago. Is now not quite so famous because he's not on TV. Trigger Happy TV was his program, if you ever saw that. He lives in Cheltenham, so he's kind of a local, I was going to say friend of mine. Don't really quite mean that, but he's aware of me, should we say. Yes, so he posted it was quite amusing because, and I'll tell you why it was. But anyway, before we start that, I'll go back to that in a second. Hello to any new viewers, anybody who's come in and joined us just recently who's new. And hello specifically to Joe, who I met on Saturday at the Utility Warehouse conference. I think it's the first time we've ever met in person, Joe. So, hi, how you doing? And she was telling me about how much she enjoyed listening to my daily Facebook Lives during lockdown. So that's 5 years ago-ish. Yeah, and I probably need to get back into those again, not least of which was because it got me out running every single day, and I just don't do that anymore. I actually stopped it because it got a little bit overwhelming because I was saying hello to everybody who was a Facebook friend of mine who had a birthday on that specific day. And I think if I drop that little bit, I don't think it'd be quite so onerous anymore. And I can do a little, I can do probably a shorter one, just based on whatever I'm listening to on the Blinkist book of the day, which I also need to get back into again because I haven't listened to one of those for absolutely ages. By the way, if you want to go and listen to the Blinkist book of the day for free, go and do that. Sign up for Blinkist, blinkist.com. No, well, blinkist.com obviously, but go through my affiliate link if you don't mind. johnvdenley.com/Blinkist or findyourfire.co.uk/Blinkist. I think they both work and go to the same place. I will check that while I'm carrying on talking. John V. Denley /Blink. I think it's just Blinkist free actually. Let's just copy that. Yes, go to Blinkist free. I think it's a better place to go. Yeah, go to Blinkist free, and that takes you straight to the free blink of the day, which today is called Unicorn Team: 9 Leadership Types to Launch Ideas with Speed and Success. Obviously, I haven't listened to it today, yeah, that's the sort of thing I would listen to, and then there'll be something in there that would be mindset or mental health related, and then what I was doing during lockdown was then talking about that as part of that process. So I might just go back to doing that. Here you go. It says free for 11 hours and 43 minutes. Crack on and enjoy that. Hello, Martin. Hello, Martin. Yeah, so that was johnvdenley.com/Blinkist free. BLINKIST FREE. I will put it in the chat on. Oh, I can't see. That's a good point. I can't see the chat. I've had this problem before, haven't we? Haven't we had this problem before? Or I can't see the chat on my phone, so I may as well just have it up on the screen anyway. Over here, mute that. There we go. Cool. So anyway, so yeah, that was really nice to meet her. And I had a guy this morning who I was on my rebellious business journal thing I was doing this morning. And there was a guy on there who also was interested in coming and joining us. So there you go. That was all fun. Sorry, I'm distracted because I'm trying to put it in here. Here you go. Let's do Find Your Fire. I think Find Your Fire will work as well. So let's just double check that. Hello, Haley. How you doing? Sorry, excuse me while I'm talking about Blinkist free. Yep, that's cool. That's cool. I did set that up. That's good. HTTPS. So yeah, I put the link in the Facebook chat now to Blinkist, the free Blinkist book of the day, which I thoroughly recommend everybody listens to. It's free every single day. You can go and listen to it, and it's like a whole entire book condensed down into 15 minutes. Massively worth doing, and that's one of the things that I massively recommend when I talk about on the Freedom Cube. Yeah, learning. It's the learning line. What are you feeding your mind with on a daily basis? Thoroughly recommend the Blinkist, free Blinkist book of the day for your learning experience every single day. Obviously, podcasts are good for that sort of thing as well. Here, this is good. And obviously, when I was doing my daily run, that was also good for everybody to listen to. Cool. Anyway, so on to today. So, that's right. What was I talking about? What was I talking about? I can't remember what I was talking about now. I had something in the beginning I was saying, wasn't I? Yes, the reason, the Facebook post from Dom Jolly, that's what it was. Yes, so he posted something and it was basically saying something like, protect our children, as kids actually, protect our kids. I don't like the word kids. I don't know what it is about it. It just makes me feel a bit, I don't know. Protect our children is what I would say. And the person who'd written it, obviously big sign, and I'm guessing they're saying something about immigration or something. I assume that's what that post was about, but there was no sort of relevant additional information about it. It was just literally these people standing up there with this big sign that said protect our children, and of course they spelt our incorrectly because they spelt it A-R-E. So it's basically protect our children, and you can understand where that comes from, because when you're speaking English and you say protect our children, and you say don't you, protect our children, but you don't say our children if you're speaking quickly or whatever. So you can understand why they might spell it A-R-E, but of course the problem is that fundamentally means that they've misunderstood the actual context of the language they're saying. And of course there are people in the chat commenting and correcting the spelling. Grammar, actually, I think it was grammar or spelling. I'm not sure if it's spelling or grammar, because it's completely the wrong word. So it's not even spelling, because they're not even spelling our wrong. They're just using a completely the wrong word. And of course, the sort of people who would do that are the same sort of people who would not understand the difference between the words two and two. To go to something, too many, T-O-O, and the number two, which all sound exactly the same when you're speaking, but when you write them down, there's different context. And the same with there, and there. So there, something over there, T-H-R-E-E, T-H-E-R-E, there, something over there. Whereas something like their clothes, which would be T-H-I before E, I-E-R, T-H-E-I-R, no, T-H-E-I-R, there you go. There you go, that's the classic I before E, except after C, and when, it sounds like something else or something. I can't remember what the sort of exceptions to the I before E rule is. Anyway, their clothes, their house, their car, that kind of stuff. And they are, which is condensed to T-H-Y-E'-R-E. So it would be they are fit, they are English, they are rich, they are posh, they are anyway, and that's their English, they're white, they're tall, they are tall is what that should be. Anyway, so a little kind of grammar / spelling lesson going on there. The point being, however, because this is where I'm wrapping it round until, is of course there are people there correcting them, and of course the people correcting them are just trying to be helpful. It's like, well, that's not correct. This is the correct way of doing it. And of course, then there's a whole bunch of people in the chat saying you're being condescending. And you're like, well, no, I'm just correcting them. I'm helping them to be better, because clearly they don't know that they've spelt that or they used the wrong word, and I'm just trying to connect them. And then there's people having a go at them saying, oh, how dare you? And it's like, well, yeah. And then of course there are also people saying they don't even speak English properly. And because these are people who are kind of against immigration, it's like they are against immigration, they don't even speak English properly. It's not that they're not speaking English properly, it's that they're not writing English properly. So it's a poor education situation going on there, which of course then calling into question the education of British citizens, British children, I guess. So when they say protect our children. It'd be interesting if they'd even said like educate our children and then still spelt it wrong. It's like, well, you're not, how are you educating the children if you're not even spelling the word or using the correct word? Feels like I'm in a bit of a rant here, but there is a point. I'm coming to a point. In fact, the point behind all this stuff is about tolerance for other people, just in general, is what we're talking about here. So maybe I should have said that up front to make it a bit more obvious as what I'm talking about here. So yeah, so the people there, and they're correcting other people and just trying to be helpful. And of course, then there are people having a go at the people correcting them, saying, you know, how dare you be condescending to those people, and you know, and making them feel small. You're like, well, they're making themselves. I mean, they don't feel small, but they're making themselves look small by not doing the thing correctly. And when you try and correct them, it's like, well, what should I do? Just let them be ignorant and let them be stupid and let them make themselves look stupid? Or should I correct them so that they can be better going forward in the future? Which is exactly what you would want your children to do. If you want to protect your children, is you would educate them properly so that they can be better going forward in the future, right? And also, you quite often find that people who have learned English as a second language, they understand the language better than people who are already English. Side note, always amuses me that Americans say they speak English when they don't speak English, they speak American. And they write American as well. They don't write English because they spell the words differently. They use different words, and it's quite amusing. There should be a completely separate language really called American, which is, or even just American English, that would work fine as well. I remember many years ago when we first used like Adobe Acrobat, and you could choose the language, and the only language, like when you're installing the software, and the only language you could choose that was an English version was American English. It actually said American English, and I'm like, well, no, I want English. I don't want to install American English. I want to install English. I want a version of English that spells colour with a U, etc., etc., and uses pavement instead of sidewalk, and trunk instead of boot, or sorry, the other way around, boot instead of trunk. But you see how we all kind of mix these things up these days. Anyway, so yeah, you want to educate your children better, don't you? So you want people to be better. And then that reminded me of something I saw posted just recently, which I thought was a really, really cool quote. And I was like, oh, that's a cool quote. I love that. Where did it come from? And then I noticed it was actually a quote from Proverbs in the Bible. So it's actually a really good quote from the Bible, which I think is quite interesting for somebody who's agnostic, myself. Not really much of a God person. Although, interestingly, somebody said to me the other day, if you're agnostic, then you're really an atheist because you don't believe that there is a God or something like that. And I was like, well, that's not entirely true, because all I'm saying is I'd like to see evidence of a God before I can believe in it. And so far I haven't seen the evidence, although I can see gaps in our current knowledge where the concept of a God could exist. Dark matter being one of those, and alternative, well, essentially it's like, what existed before the Big Bang? That kind of question. It's like, well, nothing existed. Well, okay, but so where did everything come from before the Big Bang? It's like was there not? It's like, that whole question becomes like, I don't know what the answer is to that. And there's a gap there, which could then allow for a God to exist. However, of course, the logical extension of that is, well, if there was a God, what existed before the God existed? And if God has always existed, then what existed before that? And was there a time before that? Is there no time? How does that work? Anyway, a little bit of philosophy going on there a little bit, because it's like, it then becomes like, well, what's the beginning of time? Because time didn't really exist before the Big Bang, so so nothing did exist. Anyway, kind of blows your mind when you start going into it that detailed. But the point being, this quote came from Proverbs, and it was along the lines of, I could probably find the actual full quote, actually, probably worth reading out the whole thing on here. But basically it was saying that, I'm not sure if it said ignorant people, but ignorant people will hate you for correcting them, but wise people will love you for correcting them. That's essentially what it said. Maybe I'll paraphrase it and claim it as my own, because that's always a possibility, I suppose. Let me just refresh that feed. Why is it not showing that? Because I did a screenshot of it, so that's why I'm kind of trying to look it up. No. Doesn't seem to have captured the screenshot, which is quite interesting. Can I look for it on my... I can't look for it on my... Oh, I know. Proverbs... Hold on. Why isn't that... Oh. Proverbs quote about correcting the wise. Proverbs quote about correcting the wise versus correcting the haters. Yeah, there you go. Do not correct a scoffer lest he hate you. Rebuke a wise man and he will love you. There you go. That's not quite sure that's the quote I was looking for, but it's close enough. But it's essentially that 9:8 apparently. I'm not sure if that's the right one, but do not correct a fool or he will hate you. Correct a wise man and he will appreciate you. That's the it's actually listed as being unknown. It's interesting. Anyway, but the point being there is somebody who that kind of negative person, that sort of hater, and it's the classic line from Taylor Swift as well. Haters gonna hate. I'm not sure if she says love is gonna love. That can be kind of cool. I've checked the lyrics on that one as well. But yes, the line though is haters are gonna hate. People who hate will just hate for the sake of hating. Whereas wise people will always go, oh, thanks for correcting me. That's really helpful. Thank you. I didn't realize I was making a mistake, which is exactly what I would do. And if you're a wise person, you're trying to correct somebody else, you expect the other person to think that it's a good thing to be corrected and help you to be better than you were before. Yes, do not correct a fool or he will hate you. Correct a wise man and he will appreciate you. Yeah, there's loads of those not coming about on there. Never heard that quote before. I love it. But it brings it into it because that's somebody who is not willing to be educated and will hate you for correcting them or educating them, will stay uneducated and stay a fool. Whereas a wise person is a wise person because they like people correcting them and making them feel better about themselves. So again, coming back to the accepting people and loving people for what they are, and just accepting them in general, really, because everybody has a worldview that is different from your worldview because they've grown up differently from you. They've had a different background, they have different parents, different friends, different jobs, all that kind of stuff. They have a completely different worldview to you. And if somebody comes to you with an opinion, that opinion is based on their life, not your life. So your life is completely different to their life. And so if they come at you with some kind of attack, it's based on their life, not your life. And this can be really empowering once you realize that this is what's going on with other people in your life. Because, well, there's two parts to this, obviously, because there's the, you can feel bad because you didn't know the thing that they are telling you, and you might think that they're right, and they're not necessarily right in your circumstances. And you could then dismiss their advice because you think it's not relevant in your life and it's not relevant to you. I've had this a few times when people have tried to give me business advice, and I've kind of said, well, in fact, this happened on Saturday, actually. My good friend Emma, who came with me on Saturday, was kind of telling me, because we were talking about, essentially, there's a long story behind this, but essentially we're talking about phoning people up and saying, would you like to save money on your energy, your utility bills? Because obviously Utility Warehouse, we save money on gas, help people save money on their gas, electricity, their mobile phones and their broadband and their insurance. Only home insurance and gas boiler insurance, though, at the moment. And we almost certainly would always be able to save people if they chose all of our options. So there's a cashback card as well, for example. So if you do all your shopping through our cashback card, then you almost certainly save money on all your bills because it comes off your bills, what you do on the cashback card. And you're spending the money anyway, so why not get cashback? And obviously if you get gas and electricity through from us and broadband through us and your mobile phones through us, then you bundle the whole lot together and it ends up being much cheaper. And we've got a new thing now where you get your first mobile phone in your house is like £23 unlimited, and then the next one is free. That's free, zero. I'm not sure if it's free or not. I have to double check that, but I think it's free. The second one is free. It's free for 6 months, I think it is. That's right, or 3 months or something like that. Anyway, so you get your second SIM card in your house. So, and of course, if you've got like a wife and 2 children, so you've got 4 people in your house, you're paying £23 for the first SIM, but then you're paying nothing for the next 3 SIMs, which is insane, really, isn't it? I'm not sure if that, terms and conditions, check on that, whatever. But again, that's because you're bundling them all together. You're not buying 4 different SIMs from 4 different providers. And because quite a lot of people will charge you like £50 a month for a phone and a SIM. And then at the end of the sort of 2-year period, the phone you're still paying £50 a month. But actually you don't need to, because you've already paid off the bulk of the phone. Whereas we do 24 months payments for the phone. And at the end of the 24 months, you just pay for 24 months basically, and then you pay the SIM card thing separately. So you pay like £30 for the phone, and then you pay for the SIM card separately underneath it, which can be like £20 for unlimited everything. So that's the £50. And then at the end of the 24 months, this one just drops away and you carry on paying the £20 a month SIM card fee. So that's how that works. Similar for the broadband, we do like 6 months free when you join with City Fibre, because they're trying to get people onto fibre. Openreach are turning off the current landline stuff in February of 2027, so there's a whole big thing around that. And then you've got the energy price cap, and we always go slightly below the right price cap on a fixed deal anyway. And so we're always slightly lower than most of our other competitors. But you only get that if you've got broadband and mobile as well. So there's like a fixed for 1 service, fixed for 2 services, and fixed for 3 services as it goes down and down and down. Can't remember why I was telling you all this anyway. But anyway, this is Utility Warehouse for you. It's like sales pitch, I suppose. So that's how it goes down. And then we just released this thing with the cashback card, which you get 1% cashback on all your things, shopping, and up to 10% on certain retailers. I think Marks and Spencer's is like 10% cashback or something ridiculous. So if you shop in there regularly, fantastic. I think Sainsbury's is still 3%, and I think Waitrose is like 2%, something like that. And we used to have Aldi, I think, but I don't think we have that anymore. I think we certainly have Asda, but I think that might be only for people like me, distributors, or partners rather. Anyway, and then what we're doing now is, if you take 4 services, well, depending on the number of services, you get 1 service, 2 services and 3 services, and depending on which one you choose, which one you go for, and why wouldn't you go for all 3, you get the cashback card, but you get loaded onto it £50 every month, depending on how many services you take, up to 3, I think, maximum. It'd be kind of cool if we did 4 as well. That would be fun. Anyway, so yeah, if you only take a 1 service customer, and you get the cashback card, you get £50 loaded onto it on the first month. And if you take 2 services, or actually, I'll tell you what it is, probably is 2 services, 3 services, and then 4 services. 2 services, you get 50. 3 services, you get 100. So you get 50 in the first month and 50 in the second month. And then, yeah, like I said, terms and conditions. But the point being is that then makes the whole thing a complete no-brainer. It's like, why wouldn't you switch all your services across to us? Anyway, my friend Emma was saying to me, why are you so scared to phone people up and tell them about your prospect? Here I am doing it now. And of course, the background to that is that I've been rejected so many times in the past, not necessarily on this, but just in general in life. And I've had so many knockbacks in life that my self-confidence is really, really low when it comes to, for want of a better expression, trying to persuade people to do things, or trying to encourage people to do things differently to the way they've done them before, which of course includes also asking a lady out on a date, for example, which is them agreeing to go on a date with me would be something different from what they've done before. And so I feel like I wouldn't want to ask somebody to do that. But if somebody's decided to do it to me, like somebody's asked me out, I'm like, oh, great, fantastic. So this kind of comes back to that whole wise versus fool situation from earlier on. If you're a wise person, you accept the criticism and the feedback. But if you're a fool, you reject it. So I'm a fool because I'm rejecting that feedback. It's like, why do you have so much trouble phoning people up and asking them if they want to save money? Because that seems like a no-brainer, right? And it's because when I've tried to save people money in the past, there's been complications and it hasn't been quite so easy. And so now I'm like, I'm not sure if I really want to do it. Whereas, again, she's worked in call centres all her life doing like surveys. So, literally phoning people up saying, would you like to take a survey? You know, you get these phone calls all the time. And so she gets rejected like hundreds of times a day. And so she's got completely no problems at all with getting rejections. So yeah, no problem at all, whatever. And then moving on to the next phone call. Whereas it would hurt me every single time somebody said no to me. It would hurt me. And that's the fool mentality. That's the allowing that somebody else's negativity or rejection to hurt your core soul, your self-confidence. So that's when you make a spelling mistake and somebody corrects you, and then you attack them for correcting you. That's a fool mindset. That's not a wise man's mindset, wise person's wise mindset, I should say. And so we need to think about how that works and think about how that works, because that other person is coming to you from their vision of the world, their viewpoint of the world, versus you having your viewpoint of the world. And sometimes there can be a clash. I have talked about this before. It's like sometimes when you start having a relationship with somebody, we talk about, again, I've talked about this before, but it's worth talking about again. It's like we have our conscious minds, the way we're thinking, and then we have this sort of unconscious minds. These are our sort of personal biases, our things that we've grown up with, things that feel right to us. And the classic one we joke about here, well, obviously religion is one of those sort of things. If you've grown up in a Christian religion versus a Muslim religion, you'll have a certain set of kind of beliefs about the world that will be slightly different. But it could also be as simple as something like the way you pronounce the word scone or scone, and whether or not putting the jam on first or the cream on first feels right to you. Whether or not you call your evening meal supper or tea or dinner. Now, technically, the correct way, of course, is the main meal of the day is dinner, and then there's a supper time, a tea time, and a lunch time. It's also a breakfast time. So technically, your main meal of the day could be breakfast. Technically. But most people would just say dinner for the time of day when they normally eat their main meal. So if they have their main meal in the evening, they'll call it dinner, typically. But people in, say, generally, typically the north of England, they will call tea their main meal of the day, because they'll have it at like sort of 4 or 5 o'clock-ish. Of course, that's a historical thing. It comes from people who used to work in factories, and they used to not have a meal during the day. So their first meal, their big meal of the day, was when they came home from work, and that would be their meal of the day. And it would be as soon as they got back, so it would be sort of 4 or 5 o'clock. And of course, that's when the children come from school, so everybody meets up and they have tea, and that's what happens there. Whereas the sort of white, the sort of more posher upper class, the white collar workers or whatever, the non-factory worker type people, would have their main meal of the day later in the evening, typically, but they might also have a lunch as well during the day, because they're not sweating and working like down the coal mine or in the factory or whatever. Hello, viewer, by the way, how you doing? Hope you are well and happy, and we've been doing a nice little chat about different people's perceptions on the world. So yeah, and one of the things I was talking about was how you call dinner and tea and so forth. So I was talking about is the conscious brain up here, our thinking brain up here, and then we've got this subconscious brain down here, and then we've also got this, actually I've kind of mixed these two things, this subconscious brain, and then our unconscious brain down here. And when two people meet to start a relationship, their two unconscious brains and their subconscious brains are clashing. They tend to clash, because you've come from a completely different world and background and family and whatever, and this other person's come from a completely different background and you kind of clash like this. But when you start you want to start a relationship, so you start peeking into the other person's subconscious, and that person peeks into your subconscious, and that's when you start realizing that, oh, I quite like the subconscious there, and that's when you can sort of turn that into some love and some love. And when you start being a bit more appreciative of the other person's subconscious, and they become more appreciative of your subconscious, you get that love even between friends and so forth, so people in the world. And this is the difference, because the hate comes from going, oh, well, I hate that, don't like your subconscious, don't like the way you think, and oh, I don't like the way you're thinking because you're all hateful. And then suddenly you get this clash which just continues. Whereas what you really want is you want to be able to look into and try and create this bond, this overlap, this connection between the two people, and allow other people to have different ways. I mean, you can agree to disagree, obviously, going forward. You can agree that their beliefs are different from your beliefs, but you can also choose to not hate them because of those beliefs. And you can choose instead to love them for their own beliefs, so long as it doesn't hurt you, obviously. Now, and of course, what's happening with this whole racism thing, which is not the main point of this, but this is the kind of the basis between what gave me this idea to talk about different people's perspectives earlier on, is a fear of that other person's unconscious and subconscious belief systems, and even their conscious belief systems to a certain extent, and a fear that they're going to try and infect your unconscious beliefs and systems and stuff, and push you out. That's the fear that's going on there. They're saying, I don't want that person's belief to overwhelm and override my belief system. But it doesn't have to. You can learn to live together, and this is exactly what should be happening in Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Palestine. They should be learning to live each other. They should be learning to love each other's strengths and weaknesses, and finding a way to live together rather than continuously fighting each other. Hello, Joe. Yes, I talked about, yes, it's Joe. Yes, yes, we didn't stand next to each other, did we? Probably should have done that. Yes, I'm 6'7", which always surprises people when I stand up. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk more, by the way. There was a lot of stuff going on. Next time. Power Up in April. I will definitely be there. I noticed that Power Up is only on one day this year coming up as well. So Joe is now watching, and she's the utility warehouse person I was speaking about earlier in this conversation. So go back and watch the replay, Joe. I was talking about you earlier on today during this talk. And I was talking about utility warehouse. I did a whole big sales pitch thing about utility warehouse before you came on. So it wasn't really a sales pitch. It was like explaining how it all works, kind of thing. Yeah, so that's my message of the day, is be tolerant of other people and learn to love other people's perspectives, their conscious beliefs, their unconscious beliefs, and their subconscious beliefs, to allow them to have those and not be fearful of them overtaking you. Because if you're strong enough and confident enough in yourself, somebody else correcting you, like we talked about at the beginning, somebody correcting your spelling, you should be wise enough to go, oh, okay, thank you very much. It's like almost like, rather than attacking somebody and hating them for correcting, you could be saying thank you to them. This is really nice. This is useful to know. This is great. So anyway, so that's my message of the day, is to learn to be tolerant and love instead of hate. Choose love over hate, just in general, really. And don't worry if somebody's correcting you. Well, obviously, the other thing that I did mention earlier on, didn't quite finish. Sometimes the other person can be wrong. So they can correct you because they think they're right. And you can look into it, you can do some research, and you realise that actually they're wrong. You're right. You're the one that's got the right position, and you just leave it at that, and you just go, okay, fine. Well, they're wrong. You can try and correct them back if they're open to it, and if they're wise, they'll be open to being corrected back because they just don't have the right information. And I've had that before, and I thought I had the right information. Funny story from my university days, which actually got me really wild up. It's before I became much more emotionally intelligent. I did a presentation, and I was talking about, and I can't remember which university it was, but I mentioned a university name, and I thought that university was in America. I'd mixed it up with an American university somehow, and I hadn't actually researched it properly. And I said in my speech, this university name, Heriot Watt. It was Heriot Watt University in America is what I said, and Heriot Watt is actually in Scotland. I think. Again, it's a long time ago since I did this, and I haven't told the story enough times. I haven't done the research. Bear with me. I think I thought that Heriot Watt was in America, and I can't remember at the time, but I must have confused it with another American university. And somebody in the room corrected me and said, no, that's in America. And I went back to them and said, no, it's an American university, which was a stupid thing to do when you realise I didn't actually know for sure one way or the other. I just, in my head, I believed it was. It was like I was talking about Stanford University. I'm like, no, that's definitely in America. That kind of situation. Or Harvard. Maybe I was mixing it up with Harvard because it began with an H. I don't know. I can't remember. But I was so certain that I fought back, and actually I didn't know, and actually the other person was correct. And once I did my research afterwards, I went and looked and checked. I was like, oh yeah, I was right. The other person was, I was wrong. The other person was actually right. And then I felt really bad about it because I was like, I fought back, and maybe they felt stupid. And I can't remember who the person was. I'm not sure if I ever had a conversation about it because it was just like a group of people. And they might have felt bad about it for their life. But actually, that scenario has affected me for the rest of the life, because I now feel like almost, usually when I'm doing things, I want to be right. You'll have noticed this, by the way, if you've watched me enough times on this program, on this presentation, the number of times I'll go and look something up when I'm not sure if I'm right. So like I was looking at that Proverbs quote earlier on, I was looking up because I wasn't sure. The Blinkist link, I wasn't sure which one. It was like findyourfire.co.uk/Blinkist, but actually it was Blinkist free is the free book, and the Blinkist one takes you to a place where to take some payment. So you don't want to go to that one, you want to go to the Blinkist free page, etc. So you can see I was wanting to look things up to make sure that I was correct rather than saying something that was wrong. So that is an effect that's come all the way from my university days, which happened, what, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. Like a little incident where I was wrong during a presentation. Somebody corrected me, and I felt bad that I'd got it wrong. And now I research everything before I say anything. Or I will say, I'm not sure if this is correct, but I believe this is the answer. I'll quite happily say that all the time as well. Anyway, my throat's getting a bit sore. I've done a lot of talking today already, and I did it over the weekend as well. So I am going to love you and leave you at this point. I'm going to send you the love. Because no, you don't get any hate from me. I don't hate anybody. Is that true? I don't think I hate anybody. I will block people out of my life. I will cut them off if they are continuing to hurt me in some way, shape or form. But I will still send them on their way with a block, with love. I will just say, I just don't want you in my life. I don't want us to continue to clash. I don't want to bring negativity into your life. I don't want your negativity in my life. So let's just part ways and not have anything to do with each other again. That'd be great. Thank you very much indeed. Sending you away with love. And also, killing with kindness is another line I've heard for a few times. I don't like the fact that it's killing with kindness, but again, it's like when somebody's attacking you, you just send love back to them saying, oh, bless you. I love you for your negative opinion of me, but I'm just going to send you love. Because why not? It's amazing how annoyed other people become when you send them love, when they're trying to hate you. They're trying to send you hate. They're trying to wind you up. They're trying to have an argument with you. And you just say, I love you. You don't say I love you, but you send them love back. Or you take pity on them slightly. Anyway, I've talked for far too long on this now. This is a good subject. I love it. It is good. And take care of yourselves. Have an amazing rest of your Monday. And I will see you back here again next Monday for another Midday Monday Mindset Mastery session. No idea what I'll be talking about, because this was all based on a post that distracted me just before I came live from Dom Jolly, if you remember right back at the beginning of this. There you go. And a little bit from my utility warehouse experience, and from meeting Charlie this morning at 9:30 in the Facebook group. So this is going to go onto Facebook now, onto YouTube now, because I think this is a good one. This is a good session. It's a good lesson to learn. Sending you all the love. Mwah. Take care of yourselves. I am definitely finishing this call now. Bye.